If you take a gym full of kids and you take off their masks and one person is infectious, Delta is going to tear through any of those, all of those students basically.
Reaction to Ontario's back-to-school plan as new details emerge around the guidelines for ventilation and high-contact sports. And 1 year later, questions remain around the catastrophic explosion in Beirut. We speak to the Lebanese community here about the ongoing efforts to help and heal. The province says it's spending millions of dollars to keep schools safe. The education minister laid out the plan today to ensure better ventilation in classrooms. Public health experts say enhanced airflow is vital to keeping schools safe against airborne diseases like COVID-19. Chris Glover looks at the plan.
Come September, every occupied student space in Ontario schools without mechanical ventilation will be getting HEPA filters.
We're providing the school boards with the assurance and access to those HEPA filters to further improve air quality and to help keep these schools as safe as humanly possible.
The education minister says the $25 million investment on 20,000 additional HEPA filters will help remove the airborne virus if it gets into schools. And JK and SK classes, even in buildings with mechanical ventilation, will get at least one filter.
It's another added layer of protection that recognizes that our youngest learners in this province will not be required to wear masks within their classroom.
I like that they've committed that every classroom will either have upgrades or HEPA filtration. So that's a huge step, and it puts Ontario ahead of every other province.
ER Dr. Kashif Prasada gave an A+ to the ventilation plan, but the overall back-to-school plan...
It's a B-. There's still issues.
Most unnerving to him, students can mix maskless in the cafeteria. Plus, less than 24 hours after the back-to-school plan was released, and already a major change. High-contact sports will now be allowed to go ahead indoors.
There would not be a requirement to be with their own cohort in those clubs and sports, and they would also not be required to wear masks. I wonder, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that's a mistake. If you take off masks and you mix cohorts, Delta is going to tear through any of those, all of those students, basically.
Even with the ventilation upgrades, the opposition and teachers' unions are demanding smaller class sizes and a plan for outbreak management.
I could be in a classroom with 30 plus students or in a cafeteria with 1,000 students, and I'm not really sure how that's safe.
I wouldn't be at all surprised if families are kind of shrugging their shoulders and thinking, so where's the meat in this plan?
It's a risk reduction strategy. There's never a complete risk elimination.
Still today, the chief medical officer remained confident these measures will keep schools safe and open. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Brampton was one of the hardest hit cities in Ontario by COVID-19, but today, for the first time in the pandemic, there are 0 COVID-19 patients in Brampton Civic Hospital's ICU.
Now, to put that into context, there was a time when we were literally transferring out 100 patients a week from Brampton Civic Hospital. We'd be sending them to hospitals around Southern Ontario, by land, by air. We were so overwhelmed our hospital capacity that we had to depend on the hospital system throughout Southern Ontario. The fact that we don't have a single patient in ICU is an incredible sign of progress and the success of the vaccination effort.
81% of Peel residents have received a first dose of vaccine and 67% have received both doses. Mayor Brown also announced Brampton gave out 0 tickets for bylaw infractions in the last week. Ontario's opening temporary road test centers to help address a testing backlog that has been built up due to pandemic lockdowns. The province says the centers will open in areas where demand is highest to help new drivers get their G2 and G licenses. Centers will also open in Guelph and Oshawa on Monday, while others will open in Toronto, Hamilton, Niagara, Peel, and York in September. Vehicle windows must also be open to allow airflow, and drivers will be required to wear masks. Countless festivals and events have been canceled or delayed over the course of the pandemic. Now the province is throwing organizers a lifeline to the tune of nearly $50 million.
The investment today includes just over $43 million for 439 festivals and events, and $6 million committed to events through the Celebrate Ontario Blockbuster program.
The one-time funding is more than double the amount of annual funding provided to this sector to help organizers adapt to public health measures. The province hopes the investment will allow municipalities to host large-scale events that draw lots of tourists and generate close to $1 billion in economic benefit across the province. And you know what? It rained on Carnival weekend this year anyway, Colin. So if you're going to cancel the Carnival, this wasn't a bad year to do it.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? We got to look for the silver linings here at these things, right? Let's go ahead and just take a look at your almanac. Just kind of show you where things should be with an average high. So what's seasonal? Well, right now it's 26.7 and today's high 27. So kind of right on track there for a change. Our average low around 15. We haven't been far off on that either. Records, this one's been holding a long time at that 35 degrees all the way since 1944. And just to give you a look at the record rain as well, and those lows are in the single digits for overnight lows there. So these are our current temperatures. And what is quite nice about these seasonal readings that we're getting is that the humidity is not very extreme. In fact, if I take you from this graphic to the next one, which is the Humidex, you might notice something, and what that is that some of the numbers just hardly change at all. Like Toronto didn't change, 26. Mississauga, 26. Now Kitchener jumped up to 28, Markham, 29 there. So it is really marginal in terms of what we are feeling. And we have a few days yet like this. And then as we get towards the weekend, humidity will be building, and towards the beginning of next week, it becomes much more significant too. So yeah, just kind of hang in there and enjoy this while we have it. So we've got dry conditions on our radar, but something I do want to show you is actually some of the activity for our neighbors in northwestern Ontario. Forest fire situation there, some of the lightning strikes again kind of begin new fires, but it is encouraging to see this rainfall pushing out of Manitoba into northwestern Ontario, and that's going to be coming in through the overnight hours into tomorrow. We're going to be seeing some areas picking up some significant amounts in there, 15, 20 millimeters or so. So that's going to be really helpful for that situation there. And speaking in terms of the smoke or the haze, been seeing some of that through the Ottawa Valley into cottage country as well, not so much for the GTA. Okay, what's this? Well, it's not going to be rain in Toronto. It is a little bit of that convergence from the lakes. You get a few pop-ups staying to the northwest of the city. It's a mostly sunny day again tomorrow, and just getting a tiny bit warmer. Overnight, again, comfortable for sleeping with those clear conditions, and 28 degrees for the high for Thursday. Picking it up a little further. Now, Friday, we are going to see increase in cloudiness, and then the next best chance for getting showers comes in on Saturday with some scattered showers later in the day. Still a risk into Sunday as well, but you'll see those temperatures, see some 30s starting to show up there, right, Dwight?
Yeah, but the rain comes just in time for the weekend. Thanks,
I know,
Colette.
but it's not all day. Don't worry too much about it.
We'll find a window to have some fun. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Today marks the first anniversary of a devastating explosion that ripped through Beirut, Lebanon. A fire ignited volatile chemicals being stored at the city's port. The blast killed more than 200 people, thousands were injured, and entire neighborhoods were flattened. There was a mixture of grief and anger in the city today. A memorial ceremony was held at the scene of the explosion, not far away near the Lebanese parliament. Angry protesters clashed with security officials. Many in Beirut blamed their political leadership for the deadly blast. They remain upset that no one has been held to account for the tragedy. The government has refused to lift immunity for senior officials accused of negligence that led to the explosion. Many here with ties over there continue to try and help. The local community is also pushing for answers and accountability into what happened. Natalie Kalata with that side of the story.
Right now we're working on container 15, which is the formula.
Tin after tin of baby formula is loaded into a box, part of the next shipment of aid the organization Lebanon Strong is sending to Beirut.
To answer a phone call for a mother that's feeding her child water and sugar because she can't find baby formula, or if she finds it, she can't afford it, it breaks my heart.
Over the last year, the grassroots group has sent millions of dollars worth of aid to Lebanon. The country has experienced an unprecedented economic and financial meltdown since last year's explosion. The blast was one of the largest non-nuclear explosions in history. And a year later, questions like who ordered the shipment of chemicals and why officials ignored repeated internal warnings of their danger remain.
The Human Rights Watch just published a report last week outlining how the senior government officials in Lebanon knew about the ammonium nitrate that was being stored in the port for all these years and knew of how dangerous that was and still didn't do anything about it. And it's these government officials who are supposed to hold themselves accountable that it just doesn't happen in Lebanon.
It's why ATAL is calling on the Canadian government to lay sanctions on specific officials.
It's a 30-year political experiment that has turned the warlords of the Civil War back in the 80s into government officials for the last 30 years.
And in the meantime, the diaspora here grieves, waits, and pledged to continue to do what they can.
We're not going to stop because Lebanon still needs us. And as long as Lebanon needs us, we're not going to stop.
Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
For the second year in a row, Black women and non-binary artists took to the streets of Kensington Market, painting their vision of a future without oppression. We spoke to organizers about the inspiration behind this project and why it's important more now than ever to let artists' voices shine through their work.
For a lot of the art that we're seeing coming out of this, we're seeing grief and we're seeing trauma, but what this does is it provides hope. We're doing our annual The Future Without Oppression mural, where we paint all of Baldwin Street. Women and non-binary artists who paint their vision of the future without oppression. We started it last year in 2020 after the pandemic hit in recognition of the disproportionate effect that COVID was having on Black communities and women.
I really love the opportunity to work with other Black, queer, and femme artists to take up space, especially in Kensington Market, a space that is being gentrified. It's really nice to have a community event done by and for the community of Kensington. I'm painting something inspired by the buried rivers and tributaries underneath Toronto, represented by the snake or the serpent, along with some stars and some floral motifs.
It's extremely exhausting, so tiring. I think I overdid it with the size. We were supposed to do 20 feet. I feel like this is a little bit more than 20 feet. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't look like a lot, but when you're actually working for like hours, it's like exhausting on the body.
I'm excited to see all the final pieces. I chose this year to participate so that I could not only voice myself and my art, but also to honestly just maybe encourage others and other female Black artists as well when they see my work on the floor, to honestly pursue their own dreams and do the same no matter what obstacles are in their way.
Good advice, and the sun will be shining on those murals all week.
Yeah, so great opportunity, right, to have a look. Hey, a great opportunity to be outside and enjoy the evening this evening. I know there's probably some Olympics highlights. Maybe, I don't know, you want to rewatch Andre DeGrasse take the gold again. But if you're going to be outdoors, boy, do we have nice conditions for it. The temperature's going to come down a couple of degrees here as we head towards 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock we'll be at about 24, so it's really comfortable, all right? We have dry conditions as well. High pressure is the dominant feature right now, and so we get to do this all over again for tomorrow. I was pointing out earlier because I'm really encouraged to see some of those rain showers that are in northwestern Ontario for a significant chance of rain coming towards the GTA. We're not going to be seeing that till we get to about Saturday. These are just some of those pop-up kind of convergent showers we get into the afternoon into cottage country. So very few that most areas you're just going to experience dry conditions. Now Friday we do get a little more cloud cover that is going to push in, all right, but the humidity still not too bad. It starts to go up as we go towards the weekend. So 28 for tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Friday, let's take it to 29. Cloud cover, some showers. We'll drop it a little bit in terms of the temperature on Saturday, but Sunday, warm again. Yes, a slight chance of an isolated shower, but I didn't even put it in. I just put in some of that extra cloud cover. It will start to feel muggier, though, as we're through the weekend, and especially that Monday, 31, is going to feel much warmer than that, Dwight.
We deserve all the sunshine after a month of rain. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
That's our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6. Stay safe and have a great night, everybody.